What became of the family of Pablo Escobar after the demise of the biggest drug baron in history? If you would like to find out, watch this video. Pablo Emilio Escobar Gaviria was a Colombian drug lord who eventually controlled over 80% of the cocaine smuggled to the United States, earning him a spot among Forbes magazine's top 10 wealthiest individuals on the planet. In the early 1970s, Escobar began the cocaine trade, forming the Medellin cartel with other criminals. In the early 1970s, Escobar began the cocaine trade, forming the Medellin cartel with other criminals. He rose to prominence by supporting charitable causes and soccer clubs, but later terror campaigns that resulted in hundreds of deaths that turned the public against him. However, most people don't realize that Pablo was also a dedicated family man. So, what happened to Pablo Escobar's family following his turbulent life and untimely death? Escobar was born on December 1, 1949, in Rio Negro, Antioquia, Colombia. His family eventually relocated to the Envigado suburb. Escobar was born into a humble family. His father was a peasant farmer, and his mother was a schoolteacher. Escobar had a singular drive to rise beyond his lowly circumstances from a young age. Escobar is said to have started his criminal career by stealing tombstones and selling forged certificates. He began stealing automobiles and then moved into the smuggling industry not long after. Escobar rose to fame in Colombia's contraband cigarette business during the Marlboro Wars, in which he played a prominent part. The episode served as a useful learning experience for the future narcotics lord. Pablo was born into a poor and impoverished household, and like many other young men in the area, became a criminal due to his dire living circumstances. On the other hand, his children did not have to live in poverty because, according to several reports, their father adored them and lavished them with cash. His wife, Maria Victoria Henao, had two children, Juan Pablo Sebastian Escobar and Manuela Escobar. Although there are few details regarding their early lives, it's likely that they resided and relocated between one of Pablo's numerous homes in Colombia and the United States. The first in the family we will be talking about is the wife of the infamous drug kingpin, who goes by the name Maria Victoria Henao. Maria claims that she met the love of her life when she was 12 years old. She called the 23-year-old man affectionate, kind, and a gentleman, qualities that most people wouldn't associate with the iconic drug lord Pablo Escobar. Despite this, the young Maria married the much older Escobar in 1976, only a few years later. She was determined to be with her Prince Charming, despite their stunning age gap and her family's opposition. "He was a great lover," Maria once said. "I fell in love with his desire to help people and his compassion for their hardship. We would drive to places where he dreamed of building schools for the poor." Henao eventually remained with Escobar until his death in 1993. But their story was difficult, especially since she wasn't keen on being his accomplice in crime. Henao had grown to despise just about everything in her husband's life at the end: the drug trafficking, the violence, and most notably, his numerous affairs with numerous women. Maria Victoria Henao maintains that she sincerely loves Pablo Escobar to this day. During their 17-year marriage, he caused great grief for her and their entire country of Colombia. Maria maintains that she sincerely loves Pablo to this day. During their 17-year marriage, Maria Victoria Henao, who was born in Palmyra, Colombia, in 1961, met her future husband Pablo Escobar at a young age. Her parents were against the couple's relationship from the start. They were suspicious of Escobar, a farmer's son who zipped through the area on his Vespa. Henao, on the other hand, was certain she had fallen in love. In her memoir, Mrs. Escobar, My Life with Pablo, she claimed, "I met Pablo when I was barely 12 years old, and he was 23. He was my first and only love," said Maria. Henao claims that her future spouse worked very hard to seduce her. He gave her gifts such as a yellow bicycle and sang romantic melodies to her. "He made me feel like a princess," she wrote, "and I was convinced he was my Prince Charming." Their early courtship, however, was far from idyllic. Henao subsequently revealed that when her much older boyfriend kissed her, he left her paralyzed with dread. She later admitted, "I was not prepared. I lacked the necessary tools to comprehend what that close and intense interaction entailed." Henao became pregnant at the age of 14 when their relationship became sexual. She claims that her spouse didn't tell her what he did for a livelihood for the first few years of their marriage. But of course, she soon discovered that he was abroad on business for lengthy periods of time and that he was swiftly amassing a huge sum of money. Escobar's affairs tormented her in particular. Hanau initially sought to ignore the situation and focus on her husband's sudden money. Escobar slept with a slew of other women as their family developed, and Hanau finally gave birth to 2 children. He even created his own bachelor pad at their house during his marriage to Hanau, so he could meet his mistresses directly under his wife's nose. Escobar's sins, however, extended far beyond infidelity. His cartel assassinated Justice Minister Rodrigo Lara in 1984, killed a presidential contender, and blew up a commercial airline as his riches and power rose. Hanau could no longer overlook her husband's harsh line of work at that point, especially as the family's routine became more regulated. When Hanau and her children sought to see Escobar near the end, cartel members blindfolded them and took them to safe houses. While the rest of the world rejoiced over Pablo Escobar's death, his family, his wife, son, and daughter mourned quietly and fearfully. Maria Victoria Hanau and her 2 children packed their belongings and fled Medellin when Colombian authorities raided the city and apprehended Escobar's cartel. After being rejected refuge in Germany and Mozambique, the family eventually relocated to Buenos Aires, Argentina. After that, the trio changed their names. Victoria Hanau Vallejos or Maria Isabel Santos Caballero were 2 of Maria Victoria Hanau's nicknames. Victoria Eugenia Hanau is her current name. There isn't much information regarding Manuela Escobar's whereabouts. There's no Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter. Pablo Escobar's daughter has generally avoided social media and lives a low-key existence. According to the limited reports we have on her, after Pablo's death, she fled into hiding with her mother and is now living under an assumed name. This could be due to the fact that Manuela has always been a target for her father's enemies. According to her brother, Manuela was caught up in one of the many attempts on her father's life when she was young. She escaped with just minor injuries, but her whereabouts and identity were kept hidden following the incident. Pablo Escobar's son, on the other hand, has not shied away from the limelight. He changed his name from Juan Pablo Escobar Hanau to Sebastian Marroquin and has been outspoken about his father's history. In 2009, he was the subject of the documentary Sins of My Father, in which he discussed the influence his father's acts had on his life. Sebastian also published a book titled Pablo Escobar, My Father in 2014. In addition to other humanitarian organizations, he contributed everything to Colombian charity projects. He's also assisted with the care of his sister Manuela and their mother, doing his best to safeguard them from his father's enemies' retaliation. Aside from that, he's frequently appeared on television and in the media to assist others who his father's actions have harmed. In Colombia, he's heavily involved in rehabilitation and charity projects, attempting to address the various issues that led to his father's decision to turn to crime in the first place. That's it for today's video. Let us know what you think about what happened to Pablo Escobar's family down in the comments section. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. We'll see you in the next video.